Really good to have you with us, maybe listening to Pure West Sports for the first time. We're on Facebook and video, as well on Instagram, PWR app, on your smart speakers and on the website. And let's get into the weekend's rugby, shall we? There's plenty to talk about from across Pembrokeshire, and we will do that shortly. But both Tom and Fraser were in Cardiff at the weekend. Let's just talk about the atmosphere first before we get on to what happened on the pitch. Wales 19, Fiji 24. Tom, what was the mood like in Cardiff yesterday?
I think everyone was really excited. There's an anticipation that it was going to be a bruising affair, but it's Fiji. They've never won in Cardiff. The production value within the stadium is fantastic. They've invested in a lot more lights and a few more flames. And I think there was an anticipation that, right, Warren Gatland started off shaky, but he's not going to want to equal this record. And this is going to be a team like we've never seen before, with a mixture of the old heads and the new blood. And it started off really well.
Gordon, interesting point Tom makes there about Fiji, because we've said Fiji are a tricky side, and they have improved. However, they have never won in Cardiff, and I did have a quick look whilst we were talking about that on air. Just as I thought they had actually. I think maybe they may have drawn a game in Cardiff. I might be wrong there. They have, haven't they? Yeah, they have drawn a game, but they'd never won in Cardiff. So actually, the magnitude of that Fiji win yesterday is pretty significant, even in an autumn game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Let's not be disrespectful to Fiji. They're renowned for their sevens play, but their 15-a-side game has dramatically improved over the last 5-6 years, perhaps a little bit longer than that. But I don't know, Wales started off bright. The young boy, Blair Murray, was it? The left winger, scored a lovely try. But where it all seemed to go wrong was when the boy Grady went off, bringing on Costello on the wing. Fraser, what do you think about that as an outside half? And in my humble opinion, I think he struggled at international level. For him to come in and play on the wing in that particular game, but it wasn't all about that. It was the outside half ghosting through for a try for Fiji. Nobody basically put a hand on him until he got inside the 22. I thought that was desperately poor defensive work as far as Wales are concerned. The rest of it was there's no cohesion there. They don't play together. They're in fits and starts, and they make too many mistakes in crucial areas as well. They must work at this in training. They've got to be, the basics of rugby: scrummaging, winning your line-out ball, getting in the right areas to play the game. But Fiji just broke them up every time because they're such a physical side. They even went down to 14 men, to be fair, as well. And Wales still couldn't put it together and put a decent game plan into place to take advantage of the extra man. But there we are. It was a poor performance. I'll leave Fraser have a little word.
Yeah, I'm interested how it transpired, Fraser, in the stadium. What was it like? What was it like watching, and what was the mood like as the game went on?
61,500 in there actually surprised me with that number. I think, in all jokes aside, many now with the rise in ticket price in a stadium, it costs a lot to watch. The other games perhaps took advantage of the fact that it was a Sunday game, it was reduced prices, so there's a lot more there. And I thought, atmosphere-wise, you almost sense a bit of apathy. Unfortunately, Ben, you didn't sense any kind of great despair coming out. I'm not saying people expected a defeat, but I don't think it was a great surprise either. I thought Fiji were decent in the World Cup. They were poor for large parts against Scotland last week, but people overlooked that they didn't have their English or their French-based players for that game. So they were always going to be a lot stronger this weekend. And I guess the sad thing is, if that's the right word, no, I don't think there was a great sense of downbeat or despair in the stadium yesterday. It was like I said, it was more apathy and acceptance of mediocrity now, which unfortunately we've got used to over Wales in the last 8 or 9 games.
So it's described as the biggest week of Warren Gatland's Wales career. I think that was Alex Cuthbert who has gone on record as saying that. And let's just look at Warren Gatland then. In fact, we've had a comment come in, and do give us your comments. If you're watching on the video on the Facebook page, let us know your thoughts. comment says, let's be honest, boys, it was very poor management from Gatland not to have a back three sub on the bench and then put the wrong player on. He threw Costello under the bus as well. At least at 10, he has a bit more protection around him. Gatland's smirking about the mistake has not gone down well, lads. So
No.
I'll comment in a sec. I'll let the three of you have some views first. Gordon, what do you think? Gatland facing the biggest week of his
just
career.
mentioned that, but didn't put it as harshly as the fella there.
Colin Picton, that was. Thank you.
Well, Colin knows his rugby. He's played enough. It was a dreadful decision at international rugby to throw an outside half on the wing. But on that, in 1969, if my memory's when substitutes were first used, it was Phil Bennett, who was an outside half, who went on the wing against France. So, it's not the first time it's happened, but in this day and age, in the professional era, I thought that was a horror of a mistake to put an outside half on the wing. But not only that, collectively we're not playing well. I don't know. Gatland keeps making excuses that possibly we've lost all our experienced players, but we've got enough experience there to surely build on and perform better than what we did on Sunday. So we have to hope and pray that they actually put in a decent performance against Australia. It's going to be difficult to beat them now after Australia beating England in the same sort of manner. So but we need to put in a performance this weekend. And if it doesn't happen this weekend, I think questions will be asked about his tenure staying at the helm. So it's an important game this coming Sunday, I'd say.
Because, Fraser, if he doesn't get a win at the weekend, it's the worst run of defeats in Welsh rugby history. And given Warren Gatland's history with Wales, that's not something he will want around his neck, is it? His reputation is on the line as Wales head coach, isn't it?
Of course you won't, but unfortunately, Ben, I said at the time, and I believe it now, I thought it was a terrible appointment. I thought it was a terrible decision to bring him back. And I don't say that from detracting from what he did at Wales in 2007, 2019 in any way whatsoever. But you were in a team where a generation of players had moved on and it needed a rebuild. And you brought in a coach notorious for not being a rebuild coach. I thought it was wrong place, wrong time. I thought in that Lions Tory coach 2021, there were signs then that maybe the modern game had just begun to pass him by a bit. I thought the tactics they used for Africa were a little bit outdated. And it seemed a panic measure, and the WRU getting caught up in nostalgia, to be honest, just to bring him back. And I thought it was almost a lazy appointment, and I hope that because he'd done it before, and not a realisation that we were in a totally different situation now. And, you can't ignore the financial plight of Welsh rugby at the moment. It's terrible. And that was another question mark of decision. He came on a huge contract for a union that is supposedly cash strapped. But professionalism, you always felt that as more money came into the game, it was always going to be harder and harder for Wales to keep up. And I think that's coming home to roost now. The WRU haven't got as much money as the RFU. There's not as much money as in France in the game in Wales. The regional game is now in a mess. The quality of that is low. And I think it's all having a knock-on effect on the national team. So I think it could be a while, regardless of who's coach, that before we're kind of back on parity with the best in the world again. I'll be honest, I fear that.
Also, Fraser, looking at that 22 cap rule, is it 22 cap? Why have we got that in place as well? A country that's so small, that's punched above its weight for years, we're penalising ourselves by doing that.
I mean, the obvious answer is because you have more access to the players in Wales and the head coach wants that. But I think you're right, Gord. It's got to the point. I can see the basis for the rule. I can see why they want to bring something like that in, but it's only going to go the other way now. You're just going to have more players choosing to turn their back on their country and go and play abroad and earn decent money. So I think now it's cutting nose off to spite the face.
Well, it happened with the centre, didn't it? He went off to Exeter. Gatland came in and built his whole back line on that centre. Right. And after within 4 matches, he had gone to Exeter. And now you've got a bidding war for him to come back to Wales, where is the standard he's going to be playing against week in, week out going to be the same as he's getting in the Gallagher Premiership?
It needs reviewing, for sure.
And you're never going to help the head coach, I don't think, whoever the head coach of Wales is, if you are making them manage basically with that rule in place that's tying a hand behind their back, isn't it? Because they can't pick the players they would necessarily want to pick.
Yes,
it's an archaic rule, I think. It may have been well intentioned, but it's but in reality, it's holding Wales back. I've got two questions, and you can pick this up. Number one, we know that there are issues with the Welsh game at the moment. I was talking to someone about it earlier today, and there are issues at regional level as well. But are you serious that you still? And this is no disrespect to Fiji, but Wales should be able to put 15 players on the pitch good enough to beat Fiji in Cardiff, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but unfortunately, sign of the times now is that Fiji are probably up there on Wales's level. This current Welsh side is struggling; it's not functioning. Gordon said made a lot of good points there. So whether you blame the players or you blame the coach, it's probably a collective responsibility. But whatever's going on isn't working, and you are right. And Wales did actually beat Fiji in the World Cup, if I remember rightly. But at the moment, they're so low on confidence. Low in performance levels, it's hard to see Wales beating anybody at the moment. And
you can go back to Gareth Jenkins losing his job, losing to Fiji in the World Cup.
That's right.
2008.
So,
I was there.
I was there, said Max Boyce. No, it was
You were
Tom.
there the last time that Fiji beat Wales, Tom. Yeah, it's your fault.
So it's your fault, mate.
It's all
your
me.
fault.
And the second point, and let's see if we get some comments on this on Gatland's future, and just keep it simple. Gatland in or Gatland out. As someone looking from the outside, I'm very fond of Welsh rugby and the Welsh side, and I'm a big fan of Warren Gatland, to be honest. I think he's an elite coach, and I think if you get the chance to appoint Warren Gatland, I understand why the WRU did that, because he is one of the best coaches in international rugby, and I think a lot of countries would want him as their head coach. So if you're saying you don't want him, who's better? Who are you going to get that's going to turn this round?
Well, the point is at the moment, and you're right, there's no one obvious out there, but the point is at the moment, Ben, is that you're paying, and I can't remember the exact details of Gatland's contract now. Let's look at, you're paying an extortionate amount, right, for a guy who's about to lose 9-10 tests in a row. And your point there, who's better at the moment, who's worse?
I would say the WRU can't afford to get rid of Gatland. That's the other issue.
This is the other issue, and I hate to keep bringing back the money thing, but it is a relevant issue. We're talking about a cash-strapped union, which spent a huge portion of his budget to bring this guy back, and if you're going to do that, you need success to justify it, and we haven't had it. So, my argument to that, Ben, is you could have a coach there who was more maybe accustomed to a rebuild, even if he didn't come in with Gatland's reputation, be paying him a lot less at the moment.
So we've had a comment, get him out. Also a clean sweep of all the old boys, a complete backroom change as well, and obviously ditch the cap rule, which I think we're all in agreement.
That's a relative point. There's obviously a lot of internal problems with WAU, isn't there? There's certain people who seem to be hanging on, and there's a lot of internal politics going on. So it's maybe not just the Welsh squad and the coaching staff that should be under scrutiny at the moment, and that this fallout from obviously the women's treatment in terms of continued, actually re-escalated last week, didn't it? So it's a pretty sad state at the moment, that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So around the table, Australia at the weekend. Can Wales avoid that unwanted record?
Well, funnily enough, before the thing, I actually picked this as the game I thought Wales were most likely to win. Australia themselves seem to be in a complete rebuild, and then I sat down to watch Saturday, and that wasn't the mediocre Australian team I was envisioning. They played. I mean, it's chaotic, but they played some superb rugby, really superb rugby. Worried about how Wales deal with that now.
Gordon, any takers for a Wales win at the weekend?
I'd love a Wales win, but let's be honest, at this moment in time, it's not likely, to say the least. And we just have to suck it up, and hopefully by the Six Nations things may have improved. But we're in for a very awkward autumn series, to say the least.
4:10 start on Sunday.
I will say, when I had a few pints last night, the amount of times I rolled up the line that I was there in 1994 when we lost to Canada. So it has been worse than this. And Gordon will well remember the time we lost to Romania. So it has been worse.
And actually, Fiji are relatively stronger than both of those sides. So, and there is no. Fiji are an improving side and they're a good side as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned the Six Nations. Gordon, will Warren Gatland be the head coach when the Six Nations begin next year?
Probably he will be.
Tom?
I think that, yeah, he'll stay there. The line-out was a success, but the wraparound failed and they had 2 tries disallowed, but I think he'll still be there in the Six Nations.
Fraser, I think I know the answer you're going to give me, but...
I don't think so, no, only because of the rumours you're hearing out this week that, as you said there, and comments, this Australia game, we are being told, is apparently pivotal to his future. So I'm leaning towards no at the moment if that speculation is true.
Okay,
and before the autumn series started, we were all thinking that the northern hemisphere was much better than the southern hemisphere. We were certainly put in our place.
We were.
The first week of matches, every one of us lost. So there you go.
I do have to ask you then, if it isn't Warren Gatland in charge come the Six Nations, who will it be? You can't give it to Ruud van Nistelrooy, I'm afraid.
I really wouldn't have a clue who's really of the calibre of international level coaching. Anybody in Wales, I don't know, is up to that.
The choice you've got, I would say, is you
bring back Sean Edwards, is it? Or
well, that would be good.
Would it be? That would be a step backwards, though, because he was in Gatland's era.
Or do you try a legend? Like England tried it with Martin Johnson. Do you go down that road? And try
Alan Wynne-Jones, somebody like that.
But it's a shame that Mark Jones has signed for the Ospreys, because I think he would have been quite good with a bit of energy and something a bit different. But he hasn't been at that level for long enough, I think.
Because if you're saying that Gatland isn't the answer because it needs someone who will do the rebuild.
It's the whole structure. It's the players as well. They have to look at themselves. It's all right blaming the coach, but at the end of the day, the 15 players who cross that white line are representing their country, and they know what's at stake. They're not producing the goods. It's so many mistakes that are basic errors. Can't throw in at a line out. I mean, for God's sake, if you can't do that, you shouldn't be playing international rugby.
Yeah. Okay.
Other areas they should be lacking at is defensively. We were poor, and outside half running through on halfway without really any. It wasn't a sidestep or a swerve. He just went through a gap. That's just poor defensive work. Somebody should have nailed him straight away before he moved.
Yeah. All right. We'll reconvene next Monday on Pure West Sport and see whether will Gatland, never mind the Six Nations. I don't think Fraser thinks he'll make it till Christmas. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. 4:10 kick-off at the weekend for Wales against Australia. The autumn internationals continuing, of course, with Scotland versus Portugal, which is a great fixture on Saturday. England versus South Africa. France play New Zealand, and Italy play Georgia on Sunday. I tell you what, we'll take a moment and we will round up some of the local rugby, including a good win for Narberth. Great to see the Otters getting off the mark in the Premiership season. I think at the 6th time of asking, or the 7th time of asking. We'll check that in just a sec, but we'll do that in the final part of tonight's Pure West Sport.
Celebrating the launch of Pure West Radio